Be sure to subscribe and like our channel. So, where are we at? When are we at? Who are we?
We are Queen City Curio at 607 Girard Street East.
This is the
deeper
down the rabbit hole. Deeper down the rabbit hole. The last time around, we had a nice little hypnosis. If you're interested in that sort of thing, just let us know. We can make a hypnosis thing for your spirit right off the bat. Just go and come and ask us. Send us a message at Queen City Curio. We'll make your hypnosis. That was the New Year Wish hypnosis. So all good. So 607 Girard Street East in Toronto, East Chinatown. That's what we broadcast live. But our guests are sometimes here, sometimes not. Today, not so much.
She is here. She just popped on.
She's here. So we'll bring her on in. So why don't you introduce her guest before we bring her in? There we go.
There we go. There we go.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, hey.
Hello.
So, everyone's moving around on the screen. Okay,
Everyone's
we're all
moving
settled
around.
now.
Yeah.
Jenga. Online Jenga.
Jenga. Right.
I was thinking
So
of
thanks for
that kids game. Sorry, go ahead.
The kids game, yeah.
Yeah.
Which one?
The one musical chairs where you like move around until the music stops and then you sit down and whoever doesn't have a seat gets kicked off.
Musical chairs, indeed.
Yep.
Indeed.
So we're happy to have Ashley here. Ashley is a fellow podcaster on Cult and Field, and we had such a great conversation on her show. I decided to ask her to come on our show on live radio. So whatever happens, like as opposed to
good to know. Well, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me here, Andrieh and Zachary. My name's Ashley Ryan. I go by the online handle Phythian Priestess, and I am so grateful to have people to talk magic with. That is something that I value, and I think that there's not a lot of places in the world, so that's cool that we're doing this totally live.
Yeah, totally live. Eventually, we'll be on radio again. Like we
yes,
were.
We will get back to our roots.
We weren't really ever. We had the podcast available, but we were actually just live radio. It's eventually, and that's more fun. We've had so many interesting things happen because we're live radio.
Yep.
Interesting things happen. So good things, not bad, not good, just interesting things.
Okay, cool. I wasn't sure.
Seriously, like everyone hated. They get on the show and we're talking. They're like, "Oh, this person actually is pretty funny," and they're not at all what we think. And because it's live radio, it just comes. The truth comes out when things are live, right?
I think that is true.
It's not so prepackaged, and here you go. Here's a prepackaged podcast where everyone kind of objects to it. It's like, no, this is all live.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for the team on the Occult Unveiled. It is more prepackaged, but we rarely do a lot of editing unless our guests ask us to remove something.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, but it definitely being here now. People forget sometimes there's a camera in front of you.
And it's live radio. Like I said, like guests can't ask us to take it out because it's live, right?
Oops.
So if they say something they didn't mean, oops, I'm sure you won't. You won't. So like I said, we had a great time on yours, and it was I had listened to it and kind of, man, your post editing is really good. You have like people put in little definitions. I'm like, nice.
Thank you. Yes, the Pythian chime-ins, that was my idea, because when I started reading esoteric knowledge and books, and I was like, man, there are words in here that I don't know. And I wish someone could explain it to me in a bite-sized moment. And that was our wonderful audio producer Bill does that every week. And when I record those, like, it takes quite a lot of time actually to try to narrow down those very hefty definitions into less than 2 sentences. Like, how do I make Aleister Crowley a 2-sentence character, or Dion Fortune?
But that's funny because we named the show, actually. It goes right into the show. We named it, and it's this, and you actually teach I think it's Los Angeles, right? You're teaching magic in Los Angeles too.
Mhm.
We teach magic in Toronto, and we named the show Results Driven Magic in the TikTok age, right? And that goes right into what you're describing. Like, okay, here's a 2-sentence definition, or here's a 2-sentence spell on TikTok, and that's it. That's the most context everyone has right now. And we started, like you said, you want to talk about real magic, and that's a hard thing. Like, I mean, because it's like, do people have the attention span for real magic, like, or what it takes? So you're like, no, I don't think so.
It's hard. I know for me, even learning like the Ptolemaic planetary system at first was very difficult for me. Being able to memorize like each of the meanings of the planets, how those planets connect to the zodiac. It's complicated. There are layers upon layers. And I think that a lot of TikTok and Instagram, which no hate, that's how I found my internet fame, but it is bite-sized pieces. You're not getting the full context. You're not going to truly understand what you're doing. It's all exoteric. The journey of magic and spirituality and wisdom is esoteric. It's internal. And people forget that because it's so much more fun to watch a 5-second video of a breakup spell or something dumb.
Which probably won't work, right? Like, I mean, you can get those spells to work, but they're not 5 minutes usually.
Try 5 hours.
Yeah, it could
I
be.
probably
It
could do it
be.
in about an hour. I think I could do it in an hour. I couldn't make it pretty in an hour though.
Yeah, see, that's it. It's the preparations. Like, I do get comments for being like, well, why don't you do magic anymore? I see all these other people like doing spells. I'm like, because for me, I feel like a show circus monkey who's like, let me show you the sacred work. Because when I'm sure, Andrieh, you understand this, that when you're doing the work, sometimes it's ugly, it's messy. I don't look cute. I'm going to be sitting there chanting and my second chin's going to be showing and the candle might not be lit in the most sexy way. Like, it's not showmanship.
Well, there's a difference between the showmanship, although I would probably bet you probably look cute even when you're when it gets ugly, right?
Thanks.
But I mean, the truth is that sometimes it gets really ugly, like depending on the ritual you're doing, like where you do not want it to be filmed, like possessions go horribly wrong, or invocations start going on a way you didn't expect, or even the candles start breaking in ways that are not, no one wants to see the TikTok video where you're like, crap, the candle exploded and I have to get a fire extinguisher and keep going with this ritual. Except that happens.
It does.
And the flip side of that is no one wants to see what actually magic takes, which is, okay, you got the candles there and there's not much going on in most cases. It's in those TikTok
Esoteric.
videos. Yeah, I think what people don't understand, at least I think a lot of people do understand it, but I think a lot of people who are just learning from TikTok don't understand is that those videos are not, they're produced as a magic, as an aesthetic, not magic as a technology or as a tool. Like, it's an aesthetic, right? It's an aesthetic to get, it's a lifestyle accessory that gets a lot of likes right now. And I've been told myself that I make very beautiful altars, but
They
even
are
then,
very beautiful.
they take hours to set up.
I'm sure.
But if I was going to record that on TikTok, which we might start doing, maybe I'll ask you for hints on getting to be internet famous, as opposed to just writing a book that you liked and other people like, But the lie is that would take 4 hours of work, and the TikTok is 30 seconds. Right. And then the magic might take an hour in itself, right? Just by itself. And you're just sitting there, right?
You're sending energy. Like, you can't see the energy. That's why we have Marvel movies where we see stuff shoot out of people's hands and stuff like that, like Doctor Strange.
Well,
like,
we can all have aspirational goals, right?
Right. I love that.
We
like,
can.
I would love to see the mandala or the pentagram in front of me. That would be cool, but it's not realistic.
It's not. But that's the other thing. Like, a lot of those rituals that I saw, some of them were outright like, some of the ideas are just sort of a little bit misguided. And I wish people would go get some talk to some actual teachers and stuff like that. But I know that's not popular to say.
No, it's not. But
I know.
you get into this thing where people are like, well, how do I find a genuine mentor? Dude, it takes some trial and error. You have to find someone who's really gonna love you and going to nurture you, because magic is so personal. And to touch the divine like that, do it with someone that you really trust, and that.
Well, that's the second thing. You have to. It's not just someone you trust and like. It's someone who actually can touch the divine, right? Like that's right. That's the problem.
Scams.
Like, you can like a lot of people, even elders who are older, they don't actually have the ability to do what they're saying.
Oof. Realism right there. Yeah.
Oh man, you're like, yeah. I mean, it is kind of. I mean, but it is like.
Well,
you can do a ritual with a person and know right away, like. If you're reading my book, Hands on Chaos Magic, you come to our store or someone else's store or someone who sort of says they know what they're going to do. And even if you've been doing a monarchy practice, you'll know, like, you'll be like, maybe when you do ritual on your own, you start to feel something, but you go with someone who's been doing it for years, even before talking about a sort of mentor-student relationship. You should really go and experience, like, see it. Can they do what they're saying? Like, and you'll know. I'm like, I'm serious. Like, it's like electric. It's not quite electric, but it's like whatever a ritual is. You'll know.
It'll have a vibe to it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, a heightened energy.
You might not be able to interpret it or name it as energy or whatever, but your body will react. You know.
Yeah, I've seen some people. When you're doing certain kinds of magic and people aren't in the right mind frame or in their body isn't purified correctly, they actually get sick. People will throw up. People will get terrible headaches. The people have forgotten the occult is dangerous. I don't know where that got lost along the way.
Well, I wish people would not think it was so dangerous, right? It's both not and is, right? Like at the other side of the thing, you have teachers saying, don't do an evocation until you've been doing magic for 30 years or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, we hear that in Toronto.
We've heard that.
People told us that. We're like, but you only have 2 third degrees in your whole structure, organization that can do evocations. Like, come on. Like, no. Like, it's kind of like one of those things. Just get your hands dirty. Like, get sick, get over it. Like, move
totally
forward, right?
See where you're coming from, and I do value that perspective. The perspective on the flip side, though, is I have some clients. There was this one person in particular who was doing work on someone for a year and a half, and then was like, "Okay, well, I guess I just give up," and tried to move on into a different road in her life. And she actually literally got into a car crash. And she was totally fine, but spirit was blocking her from moving forward because she had done so much work. She had to either undo the work or suffer more consequences like that. So yes, I think
she was doing the work for somebody else, right?
She was doing the work on somebody else. It was a forced love spell for years. And I know I'm like, at this point, it's like, come on, dude. Like, it hasn't worked in a year. Why is it going to work now?
Wait, it was a guy casting that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God. Get your inner game up, bro.
Yeah, I know. Get your inner game up.
Yeah. It's sad stuff. But
I would say the same thing, too. I would say the same thing to anyone. Inner game. You don't need the person. If you need to do a forced love spell for a year, stop.
Yeah, it's crazy how people sometimes get hooked on stuff. But if people have good ethics and morals and have some ounce of wisdom, go ahead and play. Just know that you're playing with fire sometimes. Literally, sometimes the element and sometimes not.
I think sometimes, like, that's the thing. There's, like, I can see that point, but realistically, what is the greater problem? Like, the greater problem is people not doing anything at all, right?
That's
like,
true. Armchair magicians, right? Right.
And sort of the video magicians at this point, because it's not just book magicians, right? And we put it's the same impulse, right? Like, the escapist kind of impulse. Like realistically, if you were doing basic chakra work like you'd probably come to the conclusion that doing a forced love spell on someone for a year is probably a little obsessional, and you shouldn't do that. Like
just a bit.
That's interesting. Yeah, like you see people who sometimes fear jumping into it, and then sometimes it's just there's not a lot of discipline in the world, and magic is something that takes discipline. It's like a muscle. You don't start lifting 300, you start at 5.
Well, yeah, and that's sort of the issue, and maybe there is more people than I think that jump in, but I mean,
We
I
never
don't know. Having the store, it seems like a lot less people actually jump in. A lot less people jump in. At least maybe it's an area dependent thing. LA has more of a culture of
Totally. I was about
weird.
to say,
like being okay with weird, but it's a surface level weird too. It's what you're complaining about, the vapidness of it, the
crystals.
No
offense to crystal lovers.
Hey, we have crystals here, so we can't really say anything about crystal lovers.
That's totally fine.
But we do have them in the store, so people like to shop.
Yeah, people love the crystals.
But even that you can make them work really well. But it's
the crystal doesn't do the thing for you. You got to put the work into the crystal. That you are magic.
That's right.
The tools are tools, but you got to put it in there.
Right, and I think that's the problem. Like that's what you're describing. Like this person kind of, I don't know which spirit they summoned for a year. They got mad and got in a car accident. But I mean, I don't know.
I'm not going to out them.
It sounds like almost a goetic. It sounds almost like a goetic spirit would do that because you're trying to break the pact or something like that.
It was a high-level dark goddess that she used.
Oh no! You can't.
Not under my discretion. I was like, do what you want. I'm the reader. I'll tell you the outcome of this spell. And I gave them the choice. I said, dude, you have the option of you undoing the spell and walking away and finding somebody else, or you can keep doing this. You can keep riding the roller coaster. They chose to walk away and not end the spell or communicate with that spirit, and it was that person and I are no longer working together. But I am not at fault here. You're the one who pissed off the spirit.
Oh no, I didn't. We didn't. Like you were like, yeah, but well, first of all, like this goes back to what I was saying initially. Like I wish more people would just. I mean, the problem with the whole studying with a person is that it gets abused too much nowadays, even before, right?
And the
like some of these lineages, like what was that?
The cult aspect. A lot of people get pulled into cults. That's an American thing.
Yeah, that is. I mean, that's okay if it was benign, right? Like you could say like the OTO is sort of a cult-like organization, but generally speaking, they're actually pretty benign. People are okay. Or maybe you could say the Masons are a cult-like organization, but they generally have good dinner parties, right? Like, I mean, they really do. Like, it's okay to be part of a group, but it's like, I don't know. If you get into the African traditional religions, it's a real problem where, your padrino and madrino don't do what they're supposed to do, and then you get in trouble, and there's no pathway to kind of get around that. And I'm one for that. I think people should be almost Asian about how they approach teachers, right? Like you come, you bring some tea, maybe they invite you to a ritual, you get to know them, you kind of get to know not them on a pillar that they can never live up to, but you kind of get to know them as a person, right? That they have different roles. As a teacher of magic, they might be totally great. And that doesn't mean that everything in their life is okay. If that's your expectation, they have their own things to work through, right? I mean, like,
yeah, I think that's called transference in the psychological realm. I know what you're talking about. Where there was one time in my life where my mentor got knocked off the pedestal, and I did a lot of I was young. Did a lot of self-reflection, being like, oh, you see, this is where I made a mistake. I stopped realizing they were human. Like I had put so much faith in them and less faith in myself. The mentor teacher dynamic is a story as old as time. And unfortunately, I think there's not a lot of mentors. I wish, like in LA, you can absolutely do that. Let's go have tea, or you can bring. I did that once. I brought a coffee to a Thelemite. I'm like, hello, please teach me about Thelema. I would like to know. He told me no. Straight up, he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I respect that.
Why?
Because he told me he had a lot of students in the past that he did not want to have a repeat of the problems. And that's why I said, okay, you've got some damage here. And I can see now who you are as a person, as a greater person. Gonna reassess and go back to the drawing board.
Okay. I would think dilemma's somewhat benign.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't strike me as like you're riding the edge of the abyss all the time. Like, so, like maybe I.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why, ultimately he chose not to teach me, and that's cool. I have a great teacher right now that I'm very grateful to be working under. When you, have had mentors in the past, what do you think makes a great mentor?
Well, I've certainly had good ones and bad ones.
Mm-hmm.
More bad than good. And I was probably similar to that guy where I would refuse to teach people for a while. But if they wanted to come to classes, I would tell them to come to classes.
Right.
So it wasn't like I wouldn't teach people, but I wanted it within the boundaries of classes. Which is okay.
Of classes. Okay, I get that. Yeah. You're getting less into the personal life of the person.
Well, it's from my perspective, like first, it goes into what I think is good and bad mentor. From my perspective, it comes to the fact that, like, if you have true magical power and you're literally taking someone from broke to almost an upper manager of a CEO company and they forget your name in 5 years, why? Why do that anymore? I'm like, and it's probably a common theme right now, like where people have power are kind of not exiting from the world, but refusing to share because of that, right? And that comes down to our culture in North America is that everyone is disposable, goes along with TikTok and some of the things.
Very interesting.
But you know what? When you start comparing the ripples, like literally like where you go from almost homeless to, where you fall off the rock so far to back to where you were and get above that, or even if you do some serious work to save people's lives that would otherwise probably have serious health issues or possibly even die. And again, they don't remember your name. I mean, I'm sure, Ashley, if you had that experience, you'd start to get bitter, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it doesn't take much, like, for that to start eating at the teachers.
Of course.
Like, and I'm not the only one that's happened to, but in the cases that I thought that it was a good mentor, like, I think we never really had that issue, right? Like, I mean, we would just kind of, I would never assume they were on a pedestal, and they didn't want to be on a pedestal.
Yes.
But they were brutal teachers. Like,
that's what I was wondering.
No.
They were intense.
They were intense. Yeah. They were brutal, but they would actually talk to me about my life too. Not like, hey, this is the magic. They would be like, they'd take a holistic thing, like a human being caring about another human being.
It's not so transactional, right?
Yeah, no. But I mean, yeah, and where it is, it's like where I see problems with the mentor system. Where we see the problems in the people who don't have any mentor stuff. Like, they're not really talking and kind of understanding what can go wrong or right. In like, like it could, and as you said, people get in a lot of trouble. But the bad side of that is like, hey, one doesn't have to go far to see a story of a guru abusing their students, and or whether it's Wicca, whether it's I don't know how many stories that I've seen where it's like
endless. It's endless. Stories all this time. false prophets
Yeah.
leading.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Totally.
so it's both sides. So I understand why. I mean, chaos magic almost came out as a result against the magical guru system because of this. Because basically, you need some other tools to just take whatever you're doing yourself. I mean, that's a riskier route, but
Yeah.
I mean,
And
in a way. Go ahead, Ashley.
Oh, I was going to say, I think that's something about chaos magic that makes it very accessible to people who really don't want to go that path, because we don't have the mystery schools in the same way the ancient Greeks did, or we don't have like and with just the world and how magic is perceived in the world right now, like we don't have that ability. But I totally agree with you that teachers are being discarded and left behind. And it's too bad, because I battle a lot with myself whether or not I want to take on personal students, and in my heart I don't think I'm ready to do that. I'm only 30. I'd like some more life experience, but that's a lot of responsibility, being a teacher and then being treated like trash afterwards. It's too bad, and I'm sorry you had that experience.
Well, I mean, it happens. It's happened to Zach. It's happened to lots of people. Like, it'll eventually happen to you, right? And you just go, okay, whatever. That's how it is. That's not really a reflection of Zach or me. It's really the people involved, right?
The students.
It's just how the culture is. So you have to get past the culture. But on the flip side of that, it's okay to say, like, and I think maybe if teachers are listening, like, older teachers, it's okay to say, like, oh, I'm going to teach inside of this confines of this class, of class. That's an okay boundary to have, to say, sure, I'll teach, or I'll do divinations. I do more coaching. That's what I call it. I'll coach people. I'll do divinations. Maybe in the old days, you would have called that a master-student relationship. But it's not the same. Like, there's boundaries on it. And that's just how it is. That's part of it. It's clear boundaries make it so that you don't have any sort of abuses. Like, okay, pay me, I coach you. Like, that's the end of it, right? Like, there's no sort of potential for there to be
or anything to slide. No. I was thinking of the Source family in Los Angeles.
I don't even know them. Now you got to
now we got to hear the story.
Story time.
We're not part of LA culture, right? So
I've done a lot of research specifically on the Source family, because they were their leader, whose name was Father Yod, who was born, I believe his name was Joseph Baker. He owned the first vegan restaurant in Los Angeles on Hollywood Boulevard, and it became a very popular place where he would invite gurus to come and teach meditation lessons. And eventually he had enough of these people come, he learned it and started doing it himself. And thus the Source family was born from these groups of what they would call the meditators in the 1970s. He learned under Manly P. Hall about Kabbalah. Just a little bit of it, just enough to like have a grasp on it. And he went and bought a house in the Hollywood Hills mansion. He bought a mansion in the Hollywood Hills. Sorry, dyslexia moment. And there were, I think, free love associations, but he would take all of their paychecks because they only worked at the restaurant. And he was essentially pimping out these women. He had multiple wives. Father Yod had multiple women living with him, had numerous children with these different wives, and then eventually got busted by the U.S. government. There were some tax issues with the restaurant. Those kind of sort of got resolved, and then the Source family moved to Hawaii to get away from all the gossip in Los Angeles. And Father Yod died during a hang gliding accident at 78.
So you know what I heard from this story is, do not defraud the U.S. government.
Yeah, that's all I heard.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, seriously, do not screw around.
It's the same thing with that Netflix documentary, Wild Wild Country. If you had just paid your taxes and left the U.S. government out of this wouldn't be a problem.
Peace. Pay your taxes, people. Pay your
Pay the
Taxes.
taxes if you're going to do scummy stuff, and you won't go to jail.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. The U.S. government doesn't care. It just wants its cut first.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of interesting. Like, that's the kind of stories you hear all the time. But I mean, this
Yep.
is a real story. It happened
Yeah.
that people kind of do this. And in the 70s, it seemed like people were open to this sort of thing, right?
Totally.
Like,
You had Heaven's Gate. You had
like-
Jonestown. This.
yeah, there was a lot of this because like this kind of metaphysical thought was really secret. And like you were really saying something new, but now I could do a Google search and get all that information and probably a lot more. And
Yep.
I mean, so there's sort of there's both a natural, current against that, because like everyone released everything on the internet. The internet has done that in the
Mhm.
last 40 years. So they can't really do it. But then the second side of that is the only secret worth having is experience. So it's like we're back to if you really want to have experiences, you have to go to somebody who actually can create those experiences. Otherwise, like it's a hit or miss. With I think most occult books, it's very hit or miss.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully not mine, but in general, it's hit or miss. Like you might have something happen, you might not.
Yeah.
And if you don't have,
I had too many experiences when I was young that I didn't know how to control, and that's actually what drove me to magic. Was stuff in the environment. If there is a ghost, if there is a spirit in the place they come to me. They're like, hey. And I worked in a haunted jail. I was a ghost tour guide, and I was like, oh no, this is a problem, because it's like they stick to you and you get real heavy and dragged down. And being just an ordinary person, I didn't know how to handle that. And so that's what's pushed me into magic, is like the force of necessity. But for a long time I had been, go ahead. Sorry.
Because you were psychic and you
Yeah.
had some mediumship skills. So they saw you as a light or whatever, not light maybe, but they could see you and they basically would be like, hey,
Shiny.
hello.
Shiny.
I know you can hear us.
Yeah. My favorite one was, help me. Oh, that's not creepy. Okay. How?
Yeah, like, what do you want me to do? Like, you're dead.
Mm-hmm. And you were probably a bad dude if you died in jail. So no.
I wouldn't, having done prison ministry, I might not actually think that.
Yeah, really interesting.
I haven't visited prisoners in prison. I might think what I hear most of them say is something like, I don't know, they had anger control issues and they're in the wrong place at the wrong time.
See, I think my view was tainted because I'm telling horror stories about how these people died. So I could see where my bias is there.
Yeah, a lot of them I thought, well, okay, you lost your temper, or you needed the money in this job and you're a getaway driver and you're like, you shouldn't have done it. You knew it, but you didn't have a job. So it's like, it gets weird when you actually talk to people. Like, you're like,
Humanize them. Yeah.
You're like, what you're trying to say, well, we can work on the anger control issues that you can do with meditation and magic. And that kind of getting your anger control issues will probably get you out of here sooner, and you'll be able to hold a job and stuff like that. But it's very interesting because, like, even somebody who killed somebody, you're like, well, what happened? And their story is like, well, I was drunk and I shouldn't have done what I did, and they pissed me off, and I just lost it. And you're like, whoa, yeah, that was one bad decision.
Yeah, there are moments in our life, like we've all come to that crossroads at some point. And I know that, Andrieh, you have some hypnotherapy in your belt. It's about creating space and not being reactive. And I think that's a big part of magic. And what meditation really teaches us is to be able to quiet the monkey mind and have space, because there is no space in our world right now between cell phones, TVs, cars.
Yeah, I think right now that's probably one of the biggest problems. I think it was that way for years, but I think maybe it's a lot worse now, right? And it's not just that. There's no space for yourself between outrages either, right? It's like outrage to outrage to outrage.
Oh, the media cycle, totally.
Yeah, right. It's total endless cycles of emotional sort of
was a roller coaster.
emotional content. Yeah, emotional roller coasters that basically don't leave a lot of time for thinking, like for thought. You have to sort of forcefully reclaim all that, right? Like you have to like forcefully almost rebel against it to like sort of give yourself some space nowadays.
I know what you're talking about. The I call it angertainment because
Angertainment,
Mhm.
outragetainment, or yeah, that's what we call outragetainment. But angertainment's a good one. Yeah,
Yeah, because it's an emotional depletion. People cannot they will not have an excess of prana or vital energy because you're expending it a lot at the screen at every outrage. So by the
right.
time you build up a little bit more energy, oh, it's time to fight the next battle because you're constantly in that fight or flight mode. It's a very interesting dynamic, and it really took place after 2001 in America post 9/11. I noticed in my life experience.
Right, and if you're expelling on things you can't control, you're probably losing control of your life at the same time,
Hmm.
piece by piece. Right, just kind of barely getting up to go to work each day, and that's a thing that magic's advising against, or it's telling you the opposite, that you have to increasingly try to gain control of your existence and your universe that you want to create, that you're living. Um, So in a way, like again, we're talking about culture being oppositional to the process of magic.
Yeah.
Um,
This is such a great topic. I talk a lot to my students about learning to be in the world but not of the world. So not getting caught in the energetic egregores of politics, or getting like, it's important to have empathy and opinions about politics, but it does not need to consume your entire life and every aspect of your life, because that's how we find balance. But man, anything that's spiritual really isn't of the world, because it's quite literally spirit. It's above terrestrial. And I think again that goes back to the exo versus esoteric we were talking about earlier. See, lines are getting so blurry now. Huh.
I know, I know. I mean, one of the things about that though is like ultimately, if it's just internal, like that is just spicy psychology at that point. Like to use a reference we had, where we did the show on Cult and Veiled, right? At that point, it could just be hypnosis.
Yeah.
There's got to be a point in which the exo world actually shifts, which is actually probably one of the things we were originally having issues with TikTok. Do people measure the fact that exo world is shifting? Because if it's not, you cannot say it's magic, right? It's performative without
Well, it's
the
performative,
evidence.
and it's more about this social approval, because they'll get all the likes and they'll get all the comments, but it might have not changed their life exactly, but they feel good
Yeah.
about it.
There's a very big difference. Yeah.
Right, you could feel terrible about a ritual and it could still work. It could make you sick to the point you're throwing up, and the next day it happens what you asked for. That's very different than sort of the endorphin rush of social media, where you might like it, but
It's
it's
that
not effective.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
not it's that showmanship aesthetic aspect of it. Like, yes, absolutely, there's ritual drama, and theater is important in a lot of rites, but some of my most effective magic was me. I probably looked like I was sleeping. I was sitting on the ground working in the astral, like I and um I had an experience where a couple of months ago my computer broke. It was really weird. I got like this weird crack up near the camera, and I took it in, and the computer IT fixing people said, "Oh, you lost everything on your computer. The motherboard's cracked." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, this computer did not get dropped. There's just like a small ding. So I was like, "All right, I got to go home and do some serious magic." And I did. And one thing that I find, a lot of people when they're casting magic and they don't know or they're worried it's going to work. First of all, you can't worry. I have an affirmation that if I ever have a doubt of worry coming to my head, I said, my computer's already fixed. My computer's already fixed. And I got a call 3 days later. "Oh, just kidding. Everything's fine. We got you a new screen. Please come pick your computer up."
Well, see, now there's a whole lot of things I could say about that. Like, they just try to get you to buy a new computer.
Oh,
Mhm.
it's possible. It's totally possible.
You know,
But
the
yeah,
hustle, and
yeah,
then your magic kind of corrected the sort of issue.
yeah, that's possible too. There's a lot of ways magic can work. My magic didn't necessarily fix the motherboard. It affected the situation around this issue for me and put the elements in place so I would get my computer back and it would be fixed, quote
I was going
unquote.
to say, having fixed computers before, if your motherboard breaks, it's pretty bad. So this sounds like the hustle to me.
It sounds like a
Right,
hustle.
It
right.
sounds like a hustle that they were pulling a hustle.
Ah,
Like, oh
well,
look, it's a woman. She don't know no better. Hustle, you know.
it's very possible. I would totally believe they were trying to scam me. Um, but if they continue to try to scam me, why would they change their mind and tell me the truth?
Supervisor, someone overlooked,
Ah,
someone oversight,
mm. Okay.
kind of.
Yeah, I believe that's very possible.
As a manager, that could happen. Where I would tell
Mm,
people, go, like, go fix it right.
mm. Yeah, you're right. That could have happened. So what's a successful spell that you've done that you're really, I don't know if pride is the right word, but really have a lot of happiness over?
Oh, I got lots of. I get success a lot. I moved to
Yes, you do.
Canada. That was the most recent one at the start of the pandemic
Mm.
when the border was closed the next day.
Wow.
Yep.
That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, definitely.
With
That is,
my whole family
yeah,
and all
and
my
the whole
stuff.
And the U-Haul.
that's yeah.
So that was pretty cool. I have to admit that was good. That was pretty good magic, I gotta
Hmm.
say. Pretty good, pretty good. That was the last big thing I did. Do small magic all the time. I try to use proper project planning to right size the magic, um, so nothing's too big of a lift. Like, so the magic steps you have to take are just going in line with the physical steps. So it's
Hmm.
things start running together, which makes it a
Yeah,
little easier.
right. Being able to kind of merge those lives together a little bit.
Right, right. I don't think that people should live a. I don't think there should be like you do magic or you don't do magic, and I don't believe you should do magic as a last resort. That's like
Well, that's
that never
desperation,
sat
right?
well with me. Yeah, like we could do magic at the last step when you're like that doesn't really give you avenues for the manifestation. You should be doing magic throughout the process, planning and what you're trying to develop, and do magic where you see that you need help on stuff or changes in yourself, but not so much I don't know, not so much I mean, there's people who think that you just do magic as the last resort, but that by the time that you're at the last resort, your avenues have closed, right? The lift is harder, or the amount that you have to
Like
expend is
energy.
so much. Right. And if you were doing magic at the start, everything just goes better. So then you could go through the physical steps and they just turn out better at each stage. It's sort of like magic isn't the study of the obvious, right? It's not X equals Y. It's the study of the unlikely or the study of the not obvious. Like chaos mathematics, right? Like is not easy to predict how the butterfly's wings affect whatever situations you're in. It's still sort of causal that the magic kind of puts a ripple out there. We can't always predict what that ripple is, but it's a lot easier if you're sort of doing stuff at the same time you're doing magic to make it happen, and just assuming the magic worked. Oh, the magic worked. I'm good, right? So I got to just keep putting out resumes, or I got to keep doing this or keep doing that, whatever it is. I think that's the thing. We were talking about this on your show too. Like, what do people do, Ashley? They come to you and say, "Well, I want this," and you're like, "Well, did you? I don't know. I
Do the
mean, to
basics.
stick with the new boyfriend or girlfriend. Like, well, did you go to places to meet a
People
boyfriend or
who
girlfriend? Like, And then they answer no.
A lot of them answered no. Yeah. No. You need to put in the physical effort too. It's not just ethereal.
Well, that's kind of funny because you said like your first thing was like a lot of people answer no.
Yeah, so people will tell me they come out and say no. They'll say like, well, kind of, sorta, and then I drill them down and I said, how often, how frequently, how much did you do? Oh, nothing. But you want me to light a candle to get you a job when you haven't put out any resumes? Okay. And I don't want to rip people off. That's not what I'm there to do. I want to be honest with them. I think, my approach is very similar to yours, Andrieh, as you say, a coach. Like, all right, so you want a job? We can light a candle to get the process started, open some avenues for you. But I need you to be applying, I don't know, a minimum of 10 applications a day. Minimum.
Yeah, if you're not employed, that's what you should be doing, right?
Yeah.
Or if you're not applying for 10, if you're not applying for 10 places a day and you're taking a different approach, you should be talking to 10 people a day, maybe not applying.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're taking the network approach, okay. Yeah, reaching out to people on LinkedIn, getting to know them, something to make it happen. Like whenever I get a client who wants a job, I'm like, send me your resume. They're like, why is it necessary? That's like, if you don't send me your resume, here's your money back. Because I'm gonna look at your resume like right off the bat. Like I'm gonna look at the cover letters. I'm gonna look at where you're looking for a job versus what skills you're thinking. Almost always it's just it's not always. It's hard to get a job. But if you're not matching the physical steps with magical steps, this is how it is. Like you can't just rely on the magic. Like you're talking about a job, you have to have the skills first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right. Was it your blog, or I read somewhere about enchanting your resume? Was that you, Andrieh?
Yeah, I did say to do that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that's a concept that's not now. It's harder. You have to enchant a digital copy of your resume.
Yeah, we talked about that, the technology magic stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, see, for Christmas I got an iPad Pro. I've been blessing it like
that
every other day to make it a talisman.
Oh, cool.
So that way, whenever I send messages on it, it's got a little juice, right?
Oh, I cleanse my phone constantly of energy of especially not all bad, like just the negative energy, not the good energy. And I also I made actually a wristlet made of black agate. So like when I'm holding my phone, I'm not spiritually taking in the energy that's coming from it. And that's actually helped me quite a lot. There's a lot of ways to protect yourself magically from technology.
Is that a problem? Taking in the energy of the calls?
I'm a Pisces. Yeah, I'm water. I reflect it all.
So you're just not stubborn enough to say no.
Oh, I'm learning. I've actually been in hypnotherapy on and off for 5 years. So I am learning to be aggressive. And I've learned that being an aggressive woman doesn't make me a bitch. So I don't know if I can say that word. Sorry.
It's all right. We swear it's
public. Hey, we're not on live.
radio.
We're on YouTube live right now. So
we're on YouTube, so we're fine.
Yes, but back when we go on W, whatever it is, like we'll be like, we can't say that on air because there's like 7. I think you can say bitch on air though.
I think you can too.
I think you can.
I don't know about Canada. I know in America you can, but
there's only 7 words in America that you can't say on air, and they're mostly about genitalia.
Yep.
So that's it. There's only 7 banned words. Outside of that, you can say. I think you probably
could say whatever you want.
I would test that theory a lot. I would just bring my dog on, who's a woman dog, and then see, then test the theory if I could get away with it. That would be funny.
It would be.
But that said, one of the things that I think we kind of talked about too, like we're getting to like this, people come to you and what people don't understand is people actually come to you in reading. And it's like, this is one of the things that I think people who aren't in the cult make fun of people in the cult about a lot. Like
Okay.
that the fact that somebody comes to you in a reading and a spell and they ask you for the stuff and you're like, well, have you done anything?
Mm-hmm.
And that's generally the premise, that people who aren't serious into spirituality think of people who are into spirituality. Like, of course, like, this is ridiculous. And I think both of us and Zach have experiences where this isn't ridiculous, actually. Like, that aspect of it is sort of ridiculous. But those are people who are asking for a miracle, but they don't like the process of how miracles come about.
Correct.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think you would actually say, like, yeah, you probably have lots of experiences where there was a serious impact to your life because of this practice.
Yeah, that's how. I'm not from Los Angeles. I'm not from California. I'm from Florida. And I used magic, but not necessarily candles or anything like that. But there was a type of internal magic, as well as like mantras and the physical work of like making sure that I had the credentials and the ability to not just come to LA and flounder. As of today, I've been able to stay in Los Angeles now for almost 8 years. And every day, it's like we were talking about earlier, it's about magic. I'm like, I'm so grateful to live in Los Angeles. My home is beautiful. And like, making sure I give gratitude to every day for like being able that the magic works. Otherwise,
Yeah,
Florida's a scary place.
Yes. Let's leave it at that. Yes. I thought that about the Midwest too. That's why I'm like, Canada looks really good versus the whole Midwest. I think I'll move to Canada.
We got maple syrup. We're good.
And
maple
universal
syrup.
healthcare. That's good.
Well, that doesn't apply to me yet, but
Okay.
soon.
Yet.
Soon.
Very soon.
Ooh.
Very soon. I'll get my OHIP card and get the nice healthcare up here, which is awesome.
Very cool.
So what is it like doing things in LA? Because you're basically sort of a, you have a lot of internet. I mean, you're not internet super famous, but you've got a following, and people come to you in LA, and like, what is it like kind of being in LA, kind of doing readings for people?
I don't care about my follower count. I used to care a lot about it. And then there was a certain point living in Los Angeles, I'm so blessed that I don't need to rely on the numbers to get jobs or like brand deals or whatever. I do a lot of private parties actually here in Los Angeles. People hire me. I worked for Spirit Halloween for their like party opening and for their flagship store. I've done private parties for like entire families for like what do they call them? Not anniversaries, reunions. So that actually has been very interesting because magic is also for me, it is a little bit of spicy psychology. Like I'm going to go read someone, I'm going to read their energy, I'm going to like see how are they dressed, blah, blah, blah. But the real serious stuff is when I work my day job at the Crooked Path. And that's where I get a lot of people who are actually very serious about magic who come in. So my store is considered the darker store. It's not dark. So it's like it has, when people say darkness, they think evil. There are darker energies here, but we are not evil.
So now I feel like someday I got to get to LA. And you got to tell the store owners and yourself that we got to come and bring me in for classes because I'm like, all right, this sounds like my type of store.
Yeah. The Crooked Path, you're welcome to email them. They do have a lot of guest teachers, and I know they're opening up more to that. So we have like a Hecate, not just a shrine. We have an entire temple room dedicated to her, and there's real human skulls and stuff in there. Occasionally, very rarely, we get like some Christian like savior stuff like tacked to the door, like it's like Jesus savior, like very rarely though. The irony though is we are right next to the Iglesia de Cristos, so we are literally right next to this church, but they're super chill with us. They don't bother us very much, unless there's like structural issues in the building. But people come in and we want to teach people how to do magic. So working at the store, it's required that you have a basic knowledge of at least fundamental witchcraft? Do you know the Ptolemaic system? Do you know like the zodiacs? Do you understand color magic? Real basic stuff. And then you will help people learn how to build spells. So when you work there as a cashier or a reader, you're doing more than just checking people out and giving readings. You're kind of assisting them in learning how to pick up a theme, learn how to pick up the pendulum or the cards or the candles, and do the magic yourself. We have a little sign right above our cashier. It says, we sell magical tools. You supply the magic. No refunds for failed spells.
Yeah, we have basically tell people that in Toronto at our store, like, well,
Yep, we do.
you got to actually go supply the energy for this. And
You gotta do the
if
work.
we have to supply the energy for it, it's going to cost a lot. But if you do it yourself, the tools are cheap.
Exactly. And, LA is one of the most beautiful places on earth for me because I can wear my like satanic regalia. No one cares. Walking around like Baphomet on my shirt, or I had a burning church sweater that I was wearing for Christmas because like my anti-Christmas sweater. And it's just like super metal and it has like the Lucifer sigil on it and stuff. And people are like, cool, that's cool. That's cool. I'm like, there's no other place in America that'd be cool with this.
Maybe New
That's
York.
probably true.
Maybe New York.
Yeah, it's a
Maybe.
lot. But I'm so grateful to live here because LA is really interesting. There's a work of Helena Blavatsky that she said that the West Coast of America, the southern West Coast of America, would be an occult center at some point. And I think we see that because we see like Manly P. Hall, the Theosophy Society was here. Literally, Los Angeles has over 400 documented cults since 1924.
Nice.
It's an amazing amount.
That is a lot.
spirituality-
That is.
Yeah.
I think it would be tougher to keep people grounded than out of a cult there.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, it's really strange. Like when you so I'm very interested in the literally occult and then cult history of Los Angeles.
To do a few shows, I bet there's some experts on that in LA that you could bring on your show.
Oh yeah, we're working on one right now about the alleged murder of Manly P. Hall. So that's
Alleged.
alleged. There was no hard evidence. The police could never indict or arrest the men who allegedly murdered Manly P. Hall. It's a really sad story. So, yeah, so that's just a little teaser about the occult unveiled there.
So what do you have coming up? I mean, you talked about the store a little. You talked about kind of the P. Manly Hall that you're working on getting it together.
Oh, thank you.
What's coming up for you?
So this year, I am going into the second draft of my book, currently titled Spiritual Sex, where I am taking 3 levels, the biological mundane level, the emotional psychological level, and the metaphysical level, and explaining how energy cords work through sexual relations. And then talking about sex magic as a form of, in some cases, hieros gamos, where it's that sacred marriage, but also learning to heal yourself of sexual trauma and sexual pain, and understanding that you can remove those cords, and how to live a healthier sexual lifestyle.
Nice.
Thank you.
When you get that done, we'll bring you back on and talk just about that. How does that sound?
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I really appreciate you, Andrieh, for bringing me on. You were a great host on The Occult Unveiled. And Zachary, it has been a pleasure to talk and meet you as well.
All right. Just stay on for a second before we go to and what do we have coming up at our store, Zach, here in Toronto?
We got a lot coming up. So tomorrow we got a Luck Buddha ritual. It's happening for all of January every Sunday. So people can go to our store and click for that event. We also have your tarot sponsor workshops coming up, sir. And
That's next week.
That's next week.
Where we'll teach you. So we went through all the face cards, went through major arcana. If you're a sponsor, we're going to go through how to actually do divinations, and how to actually put together spreads. Now that you kind of have personalized versions of all the cards, in the Rider White deck, and kind of have the energy of everything. Now we're going to talk about, well, how do you do donations and figure things out from different spreads. And then in 2 weeks after that, after next week, we're going to actually show you how to use tarot for enchantments, or actually to cast magic to change your reality, not just perceive what's going on. So tarot spells, which
And then by request, we got our famous Master Chaos Baphomet from Andrieh for our sponsor members. So
any sponsorship level, we're going to do a Master Chaos Baphomet on my birthday. As per everyone asking. I know. Maybe everyone asking. You know what, Ashley? We'll if you want to come to Master Chaos Baphomet and not just wear a t-shirt, we'll invite you. How about that?
Yeah, we'll totally.
Oh, thank you. Well, are you wait, are you a Capricorn or are you an Aquarius?
I am an Aquarius.
Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense.
Why? Because I'm flighty.
Well, you've got the air. You've got the fast moving lots. You're a great radio host. So it makes sense that you're an air sign.
It's got to be Aquarius. Yeah. So yes, if you would like to come, we'll send you an invite.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you very much.
So also, we are also now confirmed that in July, we're starting to tell you now, we are going to summon each of the Goetic spirits 1 per 2 weeks and have an immersive full 72 class, of which we might have a guest. Not might. We are going to have a guest where Stephanie Reiser, who has written many demonology books, is going to guest and kind of kick off with us at the store. So there you go. She's not physically going to come here, but she's going to come virtually. So we're going to go through all 72 of them one by one every 2 weeks. So that'd be pretty hardcore for everyone. Yeah, a little bit. I think it'll be fun. But more fun than people think. Of course, the first 2 weeks are like, well, how do you actually do an evocation?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to go over in that domain. There's a lot that a lot of people haven't seen. So it sounds like a really fun class.
For sponsors, if what's your sponsor of the store? Awesome stuff. And we're starting basic witchcraft classes in the new year. So come by. The schedule will be on our website, Queen City Curio. Always next week. What do we got going on next week for the show?
Next week, what we have going on for the show is that we actually are going to be talking about talisman making with someone from Alberta, particularly Azrael
Canadians
Flame.
Unite.
Canadian show.
All Canada show. Next week with Azure Flame.
Pop out the maple whiskey just to do the occasion on this one because it's Canadians.
So there we go. So with that's with Azure Flame. So he kind of has a maker shop and an occult store in Alberta. So he's a little far. Alberta is pretty far away from Toronto. So he's going to come in and talk about how he's making stuff and makes all kinds of stuff with maker equipment for the occult. Yeah. From laser etched altar tiles to wood burned kind of stuff, all done through maker tools, which is pretty cool. Like custom maker tool, like not custom maker tools, but custom equipment that he makes with all maker tools. Awesome, actually, when you think about it. You know. So yeah. And with that, again, stay on for a second, Ashley. Well,
no problem.
With that, numbers of certain diseases are ticking up. So stay safe, everyone. Stay well, and we'll see everyone next Saturday at 6:00 as per the fact we're live. Oh, that's a we got photobombed by the cat at the end. Nice.
Yeah, there he is.
Nice.
There.
No, nice. Photobombed by the cat and everything. Blessed by the cat.
Yes, blessed by the cat.